Hello and good morning, it's Phil Thatch, and once again, I'm in the backyard blind. Today, I'm using the Canon R7, and I've gone back to using the 100 to 500. I really don't need the reach of the 200 to 800 from this blind, especially when I'm using a crop sensor body like the R7. I've tried to make this hello clip about 3 times, and every time I start working on it, a tufted titmouse comes down, including just now, 2 of them. I'm going to finish the clip because I've already gotten a shot of a tufted titmouse, and I will show that to you now. It was very dark after the rain, and as you can see, my first shots are incredibly high ISO. This one is 12,800 ISO, wide open at f5.6, 324 millimeters and 1/160th of a second. And even though the noise is eliminated after going through Topaz Denoise AI, it's still, when it's a high ISO situation like this, it leaves it with this horribly splotchy background, which I just don't like. The next shot is only 8,000 ISO. Sounds weird to say only 8,000 ISO, and it suffers from some of the same problems. These are tufted titmouse shots, just a beautiful and extra cute little bird. Now we're down to 6,400 ISO, 1/160th, 324 millimeters f5.6. This is on my favorite perch, which this perch was almost brand new when I put it out, and now it's been out there for a year probably. And it's starting to get a lot of character in the wood as it sits there on the porch in the weather. Beautiful tufted titmouse. It rained all night, and it was actually supposed to still be raining a little bit this morning. So last night I made a Walmart bag lens cover, even though this lens is definitely weather sealed. Better safe than sorry, I thought. But the rain stopped just right before sunrise. So it's dry out here and yet still wet. But I'm definitely seeing birds. At least tufted titmouse. Definitely just got a shot of a Carolina chickadee, which is kind of nice. Here's a Carolina chickadee, 5,000 ISO, 1/160th, 363 millimeters wide open at 5.6 on that same perch as the titmouse was a moment ago. Just a beautiful little bird. And here's another one on that same perch, and it is 1/160th, 4,000 ISO. f6.3, and I've zoomed it all the way to 400 millimeters now. Now up on my favorite perch, a 5,000 ISO shot, 1/160th of the Carolina chickadee. Still has kind of a splotchy background that I'm not real thrilled with, but I like the way its feathers on top of its head are puffed up. This is a dark-eyed junco, just a beautiful bird. We see them around here in the winter time, and from this angle you can see the gray of its head, but you can't really see the brown of the rest of the body. This is a 5,000 ISO shot, 472 millimeters wide open at 7.1, 1/160th. But this shot is more of a shot from the rear. The eye is in focus, where it's, as it gets closer to us, it's drifting out of focus, which is what I would prefer. But you can see the nice brown in this shot that you can't see in the other shot, 4,000 ISO. And now here's kind of a side shot where you can see a little bit of everything. Another 4,000 ISO shot, wide open at 6.3, 1/160th, and 400 millimeters of the beautiful dark-eyed junco. They say out west there are juncos that look almost exactly like this, except for they have bright yellow eyes, and I hope to see one someday. Here's a 4,000 ISO shot at 400 millimeters of the Carolina chickadee on the branch there that's attached to my back porch. And here's another shot of the same bird on the same branch. Let's see, it is also 4,000 ISO, 1/160th of a second, and 400 millimeters. Here's a square crop shot of the tufted titmouse who came back to visit, 1,600 ISO, wide open at 5.6, 363 millimeters, and 1/160th of a second. Another shot of the same tufted titmouse on the same perch, but it's moved around quite a bit. Let's see what the settings are on this one. 2,500 ISO, 1/200th, f5.6 and 363 millimeters. Another 363 millimeter shot of the tufted titmouse on that perch that has lots of character there on the back porch. 2,500 ISO, 363 on the millimeters and 1/200th of a second. Beautiful and super cute little bird, even when it doesn't have its tuft poking up. It has it laid back in this shot. Wasn't going to get anything except for tufted titmouse and Carolina chickadee this morning because that's all I was seeing, and then a male downy woodpecker showed up, so that was nice. There's the male downy woodpecker on another one of my perches. This is over to the right of the perch that a lot of the songbirds were on. Beautiful little woodpecker, and of course the red on the back of its head is what indicates it's a male. This shot is 1250 ISO, 363 millimeters wide open at 5.6 and 1/200th of a second. Same settings on this shot of the same bird, but it's moved around a little bit, and I like this pose as well. Beautiful male downy woodpecker eating some nut and berry bird seed. And then the mockingbird stopped by and scared off the woodpecker. Here's a 3200 ISO shot of the mockingbird, wide open at 5.6, still at 363 millimeters and 1/200th of a second. It's another titmouse shot. This one's back at 400 millimeters, wide open at 6.3, 2500 ISO and 1/200th. Enjoying that fantastic nut and berry bird seed that brings them in droves. Here's another shot of the same bird with the same piece of bird seed, and that is the same settings as well. This was a great day for seeing them. Mr. Cardinal stopped by and let me get a lot of photographs of him. That was fun. And now it's the male northern cardinal at 1600 ISO, wide open at f5.6, 300 millimeters and 1/200th. Beautiful, beautiful bird, and it gave me a few poses on this same branch. Same settings here on this shot of the beautiful northern cardinal. Mrs. Downy Woodpecker stopped by in and out a number of times, and she perched at all sorts of weird spots, and hopefully I got at least one shot of her. This is on the posts that hold the railing up on my back porch. There's just a bunch of these. I think they're 1x1s, and they hold up the railing where all the perches normally are. But when the woodpeckers come up, sometimes they hang around on these posts like they're hanging around on a tree. This is a 200 ISO shot at 1/200th, 300 millimeters f5.6 of the female downy woodpecker looking right at me, but I don't think she's seeing me as she's hopping around from post to post before she goes up to the suet feeder or the nut and berry. And here's another shot, a square crop of her as she's doing the same. Just a beautiful bird, and I love it when the woodpeckers come to the back porch. Now the cardinal's back on another one of my favorite perches there on the back porch. I'm staying at 1/200th, wide open at f5, 254 millimeters and 1000 ISO for this one. Same settings for this shot as well. Same bird, same perch, just a different look, which I like this one and this one. And look, here's another shot with the same settings in the same burst of the same bird. A lot of times if you take a burst, you can get quite a few different poses. And I love the subtle detail of these black feathers right here below its beak. Really nice. It seems like my opinion of autofocus amongst the systems is constantly changing. Recently, I decided that I liked the Canon better for birds in flight. But I think I may like my little Sony a6700 a little bit better for perched birds. I'm not sure exactly why, but it seems to land focus at least as fast and definitely holds focus better than my R7. But I still love this R7. And the R7 has such high resolution, it's much more croppable than the A6700. All things are not equal as I'm comparing this week's photography with the R7 and last week's photography with the A6700. Both days are 100% overcast, but it's much darker today. Last week it was cloudy but thin clouds. Today it's pretty thick clouds. I'm only up to 1/200th of a second in terms of shutter speed today. Although I think I only got up to 1/250th last week, but I shot at 1/250th pretty much the whole morning, it seems like. This is the female downy woodpecker. I'm still at 1/200th and wide open at f5, 1250 ISO, 238 millimeters. This is the same perch that the cardinal was on a minute ago, but she's closer to the top of it. And the background is the back of my neighbor's house. It's a concrete wall that goes down to grass. And you can see the grass here at the bottom and the concrete above. But this area right here, this brownish area, is where rain splatters on the ground and splatters mud up onto the house. So that gives these subtle colors in the background of this downy woodpecker shot. And here's another shot during that same burst. She's lower down on the perch now, so you can't see anything but the green and the brown. Most of the concrete color is not in this shot. But I liked both of these poses, and we're at 238 millimeters f5, ISO 1250. I'm really happy with the number of tufted titmouse opportunities I have been given this morning. It's one of the cutest birds out there. The tufted titmouse and probably the ruby crowned kinglet are the two cutest in my opinion. Here's a 428 millimeter shot at ISO 2000, f6.3, still at 1/200th of a second of the tufted titmouse. What a cutie. The female cardinal stopped in for a little bit, and I got just a couple of shots off, and then Rodney the squirrel came and spooked her. Now we're at 300 millimeters, ISO 3200, still at 1/200th, wide open at 5.6. This is a beautiful female northern cardinal. I love the way she's got her feathers tufted up, but they're kind of scraggly looking, and she's got what a beautiful eye. And I got another shot of her just below this. This is down on the actual railing of the porch with lots of seed in the shot, unfortunately, but I thought that it really looked sharp, this shot of that same female northern cardinal. And this one's 1600 ISO, 300 millimeters f5.6 at 1/200th of a second. And there's Rodney the squirrel. I always can tell it's Rodney because he has this pierced ear, as you can see. I don't know exactly how that happened, but I'm always happy to see Rodney because while he does get into my bird seed, he doesn't tear up my bird feeders. And this is 1250 ISO, still at 1/200th, wide open at 5.6 and 300 millimeters. There's been some folks asking about Heather in the comments. She is alive and well, very, very busy. She's working on her PhD and working full time, so that doesn't give her a lot of time to come with me and do photography. And she also just had a surgery called a tendon transfer, so she can't put any weight at all on the leg where that tendon transfer was done. So that kind of keeps her stuck at home most of the time. But she's alive and well, and I'm sure she'll get back to photography soon when she can. Here's a Carolina chickadee at ISO 3200, 400 millimeters to get this little bird filling the frame, and f6.3, 1/200th of a second. I don't know, this pose is unusual. I keep wanting to talk like this when I see this particular perch and pose, but Heather in the other room says I sound funny. I was about to pack up my gear and go inside when the yellow-rumped warbler stopped in for a visit, which also showed up last week. It was really nice to get a shot of it, and it landed on one of my perches that I prefer, a preferred perch, if you will. Some of my perches are really down low right by the handrail, and some of them stick up. And it landed on one of the ones that stuck up, and I got a number of shots. Hopefully one is sharp. I ended up getting 5 shots of the yellow-rumped warbler that I was happy with, and they're all the same settings, 400 millimeters ISO 1250, wide open at 6.3 and 1/200th of a second. So here's the first shot, really beautiful. The second shot, a slightly different pose, all on the same perch, but the bird was really generous and moved around and gave me lots of different poses. Here's the third pose, looking slightly up. We can see both eyes now. Happy with this one as well. And a fourth pose, now we can really see both eyes, and even some of the color in the eyes, which is not something I normally see in a yellow-rumped warbler shot. And the fifth pose is another look at both eyes, leaning down a little bit now. Really happy with all 5 of these yellow-rumped warbler shots. And then the male red-bellied woodpecker came in for just a brief visit. It landed on one of my not-so-preferred perches. When you're shooting in flexible value mode, as I was today, it's easy to accidentally knock the camera into full auto, and that's what happened during these red-bellied woodpecker shots that I got. I was at 400 millimeters, and you can see my shutter speed is bumped up to 1/640th. If it had been up to me, which it was, but I made a mistake, I'd still be at 1/200th, and my ISO would be much lower. And I'm at 6.3, which is, I believe, wide open at 400 millimeters, but I got this shot of the beautiful red-bellied woodpecker eating some nut and berry seed, or maybe that's a berry. I'm not really sure exactly what it is. I just know the birds love it. And one more shot of the same bird on the same perch with the same piece of bird food. And now the last shot of the day, I'm at f6.3, ISO 1000, back to 1/200th of a second where I wanted to be, 300 millimeters. Just like the first shot of the day, it's a tufted titmouse, but because I'm only at 1000 ISO, instead of 12,800 like my first shot was, the background is much better looking. The noise reduction software, Topaz Denoise, will get rid of the noise, but it'll leave a really splotchy looking background as the first picture looked. But this shot looks just beautiful. And this is why I shoot at such low shutter speeds, to try to keep the ISO down, because even though the noise reduction software is pretty amazing, the pictures look better if the noise reduction software doesn't have to work so hard. Look at that beautiful tufted titmouse. And this time it's got its tuft poking straight up, and you can see lots of detail in the feathers and the eye. All right, that's going to do it for me this morning in the back porch blind. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. As always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.